Hello guys, how are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel. And October is almost over. We are days away from Halloween, which means that we are days away from the month of November, which means that we are mere months away from the end of 2023. 2024 is creeping up around the corner, which is exciting in a lot of ways and also kind of sad because it feels like the year has gone by so crazy quickly. But because the year is almost over, that means that we're in the opportunity to be able to both reflect back on 2023, which, as we all, I think, agree on, has been an absolutely insanely crazy year. So many good games. In fact, I'm recording this the day that Alan Wake 2 comes out, which is one of my most anticipated games for the year. And we still have Super Mario RPG next month. And even that Avatar game comes out in December. I keep forgetting that that exists, and I think it looks really cool. So we're still not even done with games. It's just been crazy. But we can also look forward to next year, to 2024. And I think that 2024 is the year that Nintendo specifically is in a potentially prime position to do some really exciting things. It may be a dull year if things we expect to happen don't happen. But I think because we do expect big things to happen, I think they're going to be in a great position to surprise us. Sony and Microsoft, they're in the middle of their generations. PS5 slims aside, I don't see anything major or exciting coming from those studios. I'm hoping for just more good games for each console, and so that's great. Nintendo, we know a few things, but are they going to release new hardware? Are they going to release other huge games? Is Metroid Prime 4 coming? What about a new Mario or a Donkey Kong? All of these things. And so I thought it would be fun to spend some time today talking about what Nintendo could do to make 2024 a big year. First and foremost, let's just talk about the obvious thing that we're all thinking about. And yes, it's the Switch 2. Will 2024 officially be the year of the next generation? And yeah, I mean, hey, I'm one of the many people that absolutely think so. I think at this point, it's a little bit hard to deny the writing on the wall when you look at how many great games they got out in the first half of the year on the Nintendo Switch leading up to Zelda and Pikmin over the summer. Now we're in the back half of the year, and with the exception of Mario Wonder, there's not a whole lot going on. They normally have a larger holiday lineup than what they currently are giving us. Mario RPG again looks great, but it is a remake of an older game. Mario Wonder is the only new big game that they've released, and it is amazing, and it is going to be a big seller without question. But what are they doing to move hardware? I don't think Mario Wonder is moving hardware. Doing another Mario Kart 8 bundle with a red Switch isn't really going to move a whole lot of hardware. When you look at the slowing down sales, when you look at the lighter release of the back half of the year, and even when you look at the last Nintendo Direct and the few games we know that are currently slated for 2024, that to me is the writing on the wall that says, hey man, the Switch has been great, but we've got to slowly start preparing for a transition to a new generation and a successor console, whether it's another Switch hybrid device or whatever else it might turn out to be. Their next generation, we don't know it, but I just feel like it has to be around the corner. And so when we look at 2024, what could Nintendo do to make it a big year and to make a big impact? I think we all agree that transitioning finally to their next generation is what makes the most sense. And so at this point, barring a huge surprise where they manage to squeeze in a Switch 2 reveal between now and the end of December, like in the next 2 months, we're probably not going to see the thing revealed until sometime next year. What feels like makes the most sense to me, and at this point, it's hard to predict anything, you know? What makes the most sense in my brain right now would be for them to do it in the first half of the year, maybe like in April or May or something, and then maybe have them release the thing like in September or October, or maybe as late as December. Now, there's a chance that they release it or they reveal it sooner than that, maybe like in January or February. They drop a huge surprise right after the new year, and they introduce the world to the Switch 2. They start rolling out their marketing and their information and their launch lineup, and then, yeah, maybe it releases over the summer. Maybe they get that early or late spring release, and they try to emulate some of what the Switch did. And, you know, I don't want to rehash old stories about leaks and conversations that have come out from people claiming that they know spring might be the target or it might not be until the back half of the year. It's all old news. We've covered it. I've covered it. Everyone on YouTube is talking about the same stuff every day when it comes to this topic. But I'll just say, I'm just talking about my gut feelings, you know, and what seems to make the most sense as the year comes to a close. And I feel like an early 2024 reveal and a late summer, maybe fall release of the Switch 2 is what makes the most sense for next year. So that's kind of my current feeling. That's subject to change because it's just a very crazy time we're living in when it comes to Nintendo and the current Switch and predicting the next generation. But it's just hard for me to imagine 2024 is going to come and go, and we're not going to see and be playing a Switch 2 and whatever exciting games would launch on it. Speaking of games, we can talk about what we can expect for games next year, because outside of new hardware, that's the other thing Nintendo could do to have a strong year, is have a strong lineup of games to release throughout 2024. And so right now, we only know about a few smaller tier titles, right? We know about Mario vs. Donkey Kong, which is in the first couple of months of the year. I don't remember the release dates on these, so forgive me, guys. But I know it's, January, February, March, I think, is Mario vs. Donkey Kong. I learned since that Nintendo Direct actually that it is a remake of the original game. I thought it was just a brand new Mario vs. Donkey Kong game. Apparently, it is a remake of the Game Boy Advance game, so that's fine. It's not for me, but it is a game releasing. It's a smaller tier release. It's probably going to be fine for people who want it, but not a huge deal. We're getting Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, which is a game I will be purchasing because I love the original release on the DS, and I'm excited to play it on my Switch with an HD resolution. But again, it's another older game, just like Mario RPG, just like Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Luigi's Mansion 2. It's an old game, right? Being just remade and re-released on the Switch. And then there's Princess Peach Showtime, which is a new game and a potentially exciting game. I've discussed my feelings on how the more I learned about the gameplay, the less excited I became because it might have a little bit too many gameplay ideas going into one game. But I'm still curious, and it still looks good. So as of right now, I do still plan to buy it and give it a shot. So that could certainly be something. And it is exciting that it's a new game we know about next year, but it's another game in the Mario universe. And again, it's not going to be a huge release. That's a game that I could see selling anywhere from like 2 to 5 million units maybe, which is good and certainly will be successful in its own right. But it's not a 10 to 20 million Zelda, Smash Brothers, Animal Crossing mega hit. I just don't see Princess Peach being that, and I'd be surprised if any of you guys feel that way either. And so with the next gen talk, let's come back to Metroid Prime 4. Is 2024 the year we finally see anything about Metroid Prime 4, whether we see it or whether we even play it? And yes, I think so, you guys. I really do feel like it's the time. And the next gen release that we all expect to happen, the Switch 2, is part of what aids in that because, I've gone on record for years at this point saying this, and nowadays a lot of people have come around to the same idea that Metroid Prime 4 has probably been silent for so long because it needs to be tied to the world's knowledge of the Switch 2. So I think they need to have at least revealed the Switch 2 before they can show us anything about it, because it's probably going to have a Switch 2 release, whether it's next-gen only or whether it's cross-gen, which is my prediction. I think that's why we haven't seen anything about it yet. And so if 2024 is going to bring with it a reveal and a release of the Switch 2, then that's why I think Metroid Prime 4 is very likely going to be a part of that. I just don't see 2024 coming and going without some news about Metroid Prime 4, just like I said about the Switch 2. It just makes too much sense. And so I think they've been sitting on that game so that we can understand how it might relate to next gen. A next gen release of that game, I think, is the most exciting prospect. And, whether you buy the Switch version or the Switch 2 version or whatever is going to happen there, it just makes a lot of sense. So I'm kind of putting my flag down on 2024 being a year to see and hopefully play the game. It just makes too much sense for it to be a launch day title. I really think it's going to happen. So outside of some of those titles, the few Mario games we know are coming out, like Peach and Mario vs. Donkey Kong, the possibility of Metroid Prime 4, along with hopefully the Switch 2, I think that it comes down to, will they be saving another huge title for the current Switch, or is every other big title that they're going to release in the next year only meant to be something for the Switch 2, which is what I hope they do. So, if we're talking about a brand new 3D Mario game, I think that needs to be a Switch 2 title. I don't think that should be a Switch-only release in 2024. That's just going to hold the game back, and it's going to be disappointing and bad news for everybody, in my opinion. If it's a new Mario Kart game, that should be a Switch 2 title. If it's a new Donkey Kong game, that should be a Switch 2 title. Although, I will say with Donkey Kong, maybe it's the one title I would give a little bit of grace to if that was going to release as a Switch-only game and a big new reveal that is coming out for just the Switch in 2024. I still think it should be a Switch 2 release, but if it was going to be one that slipped to Switch only, maybe I'd be okay with that. And so to double down on this, in my opinion, it really just boils down to, I think that the big surprise releases, the Tears of the Kingdoms, the Pikmin 4s, the Mario Wonders, games of that kind of tier and size, I think that seeing any new reveals of those kinds of games that are only for the Nintendo Switch are probably behind us. I don't see 2024 bringing any other massive new game, even something like a Fire Emblem or whatnot. I don't know if I see them doing that. I think the next Animal Crossing is Switch 2. You know, I could keep listing off all these titles. Animal Crossing, 3D Mario, Smash Brothers, Donkey Kong, Mario Kart, Metroid Prime 4 even. Although, again, I do think Metroid Prime 4 will very likely be getting that cross-gen release. So maybe even some of these titles might also get cross-gen. That I could maybe see. But I'm hoping that they're more at the point where they're just committing their biggest franchises and their new biggest titles to the next generation. I just think that that's the smartest thing to set that next console up for success. Don't confuse the market with too many cross-generational titles. One or two is fine. Even my beloved Metroid Prime 4, simply because of when it was announced, I would be fine if that one gets the cross-gen release because it was already promised as a Switch title. Even though if they changed their mind, I wouldn't even really care if I'm being honest. But it's the reason why I would also give grace to that being cross-gen. So anyway, when I look at 2024 here near the end of 2023, that's just what I see, and that's what I think, man. It's time for Switch 2. It's time for Metroid Prime 4, baby, give it to me. And it's time to see that their next biggest games, you know, forget Princess Peach and all that stuff. Give me a 3D Mario and a Donkey Kong and a Star Fox on the Switch 2. That's what I think will make 2024 a big, exciting, successful year. Just in my opinion. What do you guys think? Tell me if you agree with me or not below. And that's about it.